everybody. This is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and have kept it off for 30 plus years. There should be no hesitance in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to continue the series 20 items in my kitchen that aid in my weight maintenance and talk about them nuts. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, especially from the psychological point of view, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my website, Naturopathic Earth, which has tons of articles and recipes. My podcast, The Awakened Man, since 2017. My 2 books, and if you really appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal to make a small donation. All right, nuts. I love nuts. A melange of nuts. Why do I like nuts? Well, nuts, if you choose the correct ones, are very keto friendly, or if you don't want to do keto, they're low carb friendly. They are loaded with various minerals and vitamins depending on which ones you eat. They're high fat in the good fat, the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. And they're tasty and they fill you up. I mean, it's kind of a win-win as to why you should eat them. Now, there are some negatives to nuts, of course. Don't eat too many of them because they are high in calories. And even though not all calories are created equal, we do want to be vigilant and not to be piling a bunch of nuts into our face. Now, there's, of course, a wide variety of nuts. Some fall from trees, some don't. We know that peanuts and cashews are not really nuts. They come from the legume family, which there will be an episode on legumes, because I do like legumes. But for all intents and purposes, we call them nuts, so we'll just throw them in the nut family. Now, in terms of nuts, whether it be walnuts, pistachios, almonds, Brazil nuts, there's tons of nuts. Which is the best for you? Well, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. And I think some of it is also what's your preference as to what you like. It's interesting because my whole life, I did not like macadamia nuts. But my only exposure to macadamia nuts is when my father would go to Hawaii and bring back something with macadamia nuts. And I never liked macadamia nuts in white chocolate cookies because they were kind of chalky. But then later in my life, like when I went kind of my paleo period, go to the Reflections of a Weight Loss Warrior episode on that, how it kind of changed my life. I started eating more of the macadamia nuts. And I would tell you, pound for pound and wallet for wallet, macadamia nuts, I would tell you, in terms of the composite of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients you get, and remember, nuts have a lot of fiber too, which is important. I would tell you macadamia nuts are probably the par excellence. It's probably the best nut. If you had to pick like one nut to eat the rest of your life. Now, the issues with macadamia nuts is that they're really expensive. I mean, they're like $20 a pound to eat them. So really, it's up to you. I would say, and again, this is just channel about things that have worked for me. I would say probably the top 3 nuts in terms of phytonutrients, and you'll hear different people say different things. I would say it's macadamia, Brazil nuts, and almonds. That's what I would say. That's not to say those are the 3 that I eat the most commonly and most often. I eat a lot of almonds. My grocery store used to sell these turmeric laced almonds. So it was like a double win because turmeric is one of the things that we're going to talk about in this series as well. Now, dangers of nuts. We've talked about this kind of ancillarily in the episode on, I believe it was the elimination diet episode. The problem with nuts as you buy them at the grocery store is most of them are roasted in rancid industrial grade vegetable oils. And this clogs your heart. This leads to arthrosclerosis and arteriosclerosis and aneurysms and all these things. So you need to be very wary of buying conventional nuts that are roasted. That's not to say like you can never eat roasted nuts, but just understand that nuts typically, when you buy them at the grocery store or even in the bins, I like Whole Foods and these places that you can scoop out, pick the ones you want. Just understand that when it says that they're roasted in industrial grade vegetable oils like canola oil and so forth. And so it's problematic because those oils are problematic. The other thing is that like a lot of nuts and legumes have phytic acid, which is an acid that's released by the plant as a way to dissuade animals from eating them, right? We don't want to be eaten, they don't want to be eaten either. And the issue is that phytic acid can be what we call an anti-nutrient. And so it can serve to cause inflammation in us if we're eating too much of them. So the main way to get rid of these anti-nutrients that are on seeds, legumes, and nuts, and not all of them do necessarily, is to soak the nuts. And there's different videos you can watch on this. I think I have a couple articles over at Naturopathic Earth in the early days about it. I'll see if I'll put the links in the episode notes. But you just leave them out in water, and then you put them in a dehydrator to take them out. I remember once I just kind of put them in water and then just patted them with a paper towel and left them out for 2-3 days, and they got mold on them. So you need to get a dehydrator, or you can put them in your oven at a very low temperature. But that's the key with the nuts. Ideally, if you're gonna eat nuts, ideally you want to soak them and you wanna buy them raw. So even like cashews. I remember when I was younger, I accidentally got cashews, and normally I get them roasted back in the day. And I went back to the grocery store, Sprouts, and because they were soft. Raw cashews are very soft. I was like, these are raw, these are old, these are still, I want my money back. And the guy gave me my money back. You know, customers are always right. But I didn't know at the time that I was so used to eating overly roasted, overly salted nuts. That's the other thing you have to worry about with nuts, is lots of times they have way too much salt. And then the flavored nuts, you got to worry because some of them have MSG in it. So if you ever see like the salt and vinegar pistachios, the cayenne flavored pistachios, a lot of those have MSG, so you need to be careful with that. But in general, you want to get them raw, and you want to get them and or soak them. You can go to Amazon and buy previously soaked nuts. You can buy, that's a little expensive though, but you can do that. But ideally, those are the two criteria. You can find nuts that are organic. Nuts typically don't have the problem being overly spread with pesticides. You don't necessarily have to buy organic nuts. You don't want to fall for the scam of organic all the time. But in this case, it's not as important like with the Dirty Dozen and with produce. But I would tell you that the two best things is soak them and buy them raw. Stay away from the industrial grade vegetable oils. And then when it comes to nuts in general, just eat the ones you like. Like I love pistachios simply because each one is different, and you get to crack it. You know, some of them you can't crack, and they taste great. And if you're gonna get them from the bin, don't be lazy and spend $13 a pound to get the already cracked pistachios. Because I think part of the fun is getting pistachios and cracking them. But ultimately, they all have a different composite of what you're looking for. But the point is, implement nuts into your life, because again, we want to stay away from sugar and carbs as much as we can. And nuts are just great, healthy fats, decent amount of fiber, decent amount of protein, and they're just very good for you. But just don't overindulge. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.